there was a huge buildup, like I said, of fans and players, but it started in the fall when these guys decided they were going to be good to each other. And because of their camaraderie and their chemistry, really good players became great players because they wanted to help each other out and they competed for each other. And that's how that thing went down. But you know what? When you're all in it for each other, it seems to work out. And it definitely worked out for this group right here.
What you guys have done for us is what Danny said and so much more. There are a lot of little kids watching you. And we saw you stop after games where you're probably tired, you're frustrated. We saw you give signatures. We saw you talking to kids. That means so much. This is the way you are.
This state is unquestionably about unity. This university is about unity. Knoxville is about unity, and the best representation I've ever seen in my life of unity is the group that's on this stage right now. And all I would ever ask is, you remember it, whether you're at the football game and we're down 7-0, or softball, or women's soccer, or whatever it is, make the decision. You're either a Vol or you're not. Through thick and thin, Vol or not.
All right, this segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. For more than 100 years, East Tennessee contractors, construction companies, and do-it-yourselfers have trusted and turned to A.G. Hines Company for their building materials and tools. You can do the same, and when you do, you get the right materials at the right price. Visit them this week on Hines Street, appropriately enough, downtown Knoxville, A.G. Hines Company. And you saw that video there from the University of Tennessee put that out. I've told you before, I've said it for years, I don't know if there is a department an athletic department in the country that has a better marketing/video group as the University of Tennessee Athletic Department. They are fantastic. And knew you'd want to see that for those who didn't catch it online or something. Just kudos to the team over there. They put in a lot of hard work. Nobody ever knows their names. We don't run credits on those little things. And they just do great work. They have for years, and it continues on. I want to do a poll question today. We're going to take baseball out of it because that's immediately where everyone would start. If I asked you, which sport is going to win the next national title? Well, repeat, of course. All right, so I'm taking baseball out. We're just going to give you the other big four kind of sports. You can vote football. You can vote men's basketball. You can vote women's basketball. You can vote softball. So far, women's basketball has nary a vote from people who've gotten online early. Looks like softball is the leader. Do you think men's basketball is going to win the next one? Do you think football is going to win the next one? Take your smartphone, click that QR code right there, and it'll allow you to vote and tell us what you think. Boy, we had a ton of people last week. Pat Summitt won, by the way, but we had a ton of people vote last week. Do that again. I want to see if softball continues to be number one, and we'll tackle this question a little bit later. Okay, you saw the parade. I saw an estimate of 50,000. Somebody said there was an estimate of 50,000 at parade and 40,000 at Market Square. All right, you look at all that. Bob, there's no doubt winning a national title is a huge step for the program. We've discussed this, and when you talk to the radio guys in town, and I'm sure you see it at GoVols 24/7, it's still a growing sport in terms of trying to catch as many eyeballs as you get for football and men's basketball. Does this make Tennessee baseball a traffic center now, or is it going to take a little bit more wins?
It's going to take more, and I'll tell you why. If you look at what is talked about, what used to be talked about, I mean, women's basketball used to get a lot more talk than it does now. The football obviously stretches back decades, a century, whatever. Basketball been more or less good, you know, anywhere from, okay, way down here, but good since Ray Mears, so you've had 60 years of basketball. I think it takes a while for it to get ingrained. That said, the difference is now social media. And social media spreads things quicker, and I think it spreads things deeper than it would have years ago. So is it there right now? I say no, but I think the climb to get there is shorter than it would have been back if this had happened before the internet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
We talked about this with Jimmy Holmes, I think it was off the air last week, the fact that, you know, I said, well, Skip Bertman got there to LSU and it really turned around. He said, yeah, but it's 5 titles in 10 years. So, and that's the Pat Summitt thing was year after year after year. You're getting there year after year after year. You're now in the mix every year. You've won one. Will it take more? do you think, to put baseball on a level with football and men's basketball? Can it get to that level? I don't know that anything in the South outside the state of Kentucky could get to football, so let's take that out.
Right.
But can it get to where it's a revenue producer as opposed to in the red like most other programs? Can it get to that level?
Well, the revenue part of it, I think
That's
tough.
Yeah.
Now, as far as on the mind and the landscape and the discussion points, yeah, I think it can be right there on the heels of men's basketball. Mm-hmm. If the Lady Vols are to have a resurgence, I think then that's in the conversation too. Mm-hmm. But it's a sport that's conducive to conversation because there's so much strategy involved. There's so many aspects that you can discuss and break down. And then another example of it is look at the SEC schools that have really good baseball historically. Mississippi State, LSU, Arkansas. In those markets, that's right up there,
Yep.
right on the heels of men's basketball in terms of discussion points and
Right.
and the fan interest. So, yeah, because this fan base is so big and passionate, during that period of time, yeah, I say it can.
It's going to take a learning curve. I mean, I think because you had
Yep.
Will West. We've talked about this on radio. Will West was interviewed by somebody from LSU in Baton Rouge about Tony Vitello because down there he's the most hated coach in America. So they wanted to talk to somebody in Knoxville about him. This was after LSU season was done, and that shows you their interest in college baseball.
Right.
If the Tennessee season had ended in the Super Regional, there wouldn't have been nobody would have talked about the College World Series. At the same time, you mentioned last week that you had some people reach out and say, now what is this cycle you keep talking about with Christian Moore? So part of it is just,
Right.
The first year, it's like, I'm going to get into this. Then you learn more and you learn more. I just think it takes some time.
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting to me, though, Ryan, if you had asked me before Tony Vitello got here, could baseball ever get in the conversation with these other sports? I would have said no. Yeah. No. I mean, you've had high moments with Rod Delmonico, but you're never going to get in the ballpark with basketball and football. I don't think that's a laughing matter anymore. Now I think, okay, there's a trajectory to get there, and you've started the path. It's a path, but you've started it.
Yeah, no, I think that's the big thing is it takes I just don't know if the cultural importance outside of Tennessee's market is going to be there to like football and basketball are just ingrained throughout the country. It's going to be hard for baseball to catch that, but you can be an LSU type market where baseball is a big deal, and I think Tennessee's on the way to doing that. And we've already seen that. You mentioned on GoVols 24/7. The minute the season was over, people started asking about transfer possibilities. I mean, everyone's interested in this now in a way outside of baseball season that we never saw before 5 years ago. So I think we're already seeing a little bit of that, and as that continues, if Tennessee remains a contender, I think you're going to see more and more of that where fans are not just interested in baseball as kind of something to fill the gap between basketball and football.
Yeah, what I've said for a long time, guys, is you can dominate in the spring and summer, or the early part of the summer. That's where you can make your mark. And for years, I can remember as a kid, you could just walk into a Tennessee baseball game, buy a hot dog, we'll call it even. It was like the University of Tennessee didn't even care
Well, Chuck,
that
there was
much.
a time when the News Sentinel didn't even cover the baseball team on a regular basis.
But now they're
Not
putting
many.
$100 million into the stadium. So I think you're really going to, and look at football with all of the recruits, Ryan. As Tony Vitello signs more players, then that gets it back out there too.
I think what you've done is you're beyond the planting the seed part of your baseball program.
Yeah.
But it still has a way to go before it is ingrained in this area that, oh my gosh, it's February and they're starting to play.
Yeah,
I think you've still got a ways to go.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like you're knocking baseball. That's
No,
not.
and it's really not. No, not
it's
at all.
It's that it's growing. I have people that are like, well, why aren't you doing more on baseball? It's like because we'd get better ratings with football, but there's nothing going on with football. Still football. That's just the way I was talking to somebody from radio this week. It's like, yeah, it still has to grow more. But the fact that you're even having this conversation shows the amazing job Tony Vitello has done.
Right.
That you're even sitting here saying, well, maybe it's possible to be the next LSU, Arkansas, or Mississippi State. So that's kudos to him, and also kudos to Danny White and the athletic department for putting money back into the stadium and investing in that coach. And by the way, you heard Tony Vitello there. You've heard him all week. Didn't sound like a guy who would have ever entertained Texas discussions, which we said last Sunday. When we come back, let's talk Tony Vitello. His reputation in Knoxville is pretty solid across the nation, and people like Greg McElroy don't like him. We'll discuss. Tony Vitello, you've got yourself a Spurrier. You love him, others don't. What could be better? Come on back.